Welcome to another episode of the MXGP Podcast Show. The Grand Prix of Sweden has been and gone, and although it wasn't the most exciting, it was a very poignant moment in the 2024 FIM Motocross World Championship. Just 1 week ago, we were celebrating Jeffrey Herlings' title chances, and now, potentially, we will be commemorating what could have been almost in the form of a wake type environment. But we'll get to that on this episode of the MXGP Podcast Show, which is, of course, supported by Polisport, EVS Sports, and All Balls Racing. A slight brain lag there, but they're so important that they were stowed away in a special little compartment. I'm your host, Lewis Phillips, joined by Paddock Pass podcast man, Adam Wheeler. Hello.
Hello. What on earth are you talking about? Why have we moved from Jeffrey Herlings taking victory to some sort of wake?
Is this good? I don't know.
Well, I mean, if you're a Jorge Prado fan, then it's amazing. But I didn't think the racing was that bad, certainly compared to previous Grand Prix we've had in Sweden. And potentially for the championship, it was pretty good. Although I do have to say, in the press conference afterwards, I said to Jeffrey, look, you were world champion in 2021. Calm down, Lewis.
Oh.
And, I said to him, how does this championship feel? Because there was 4 of you going for that title, and now there's 3. But how does it compare in terms of intensity, impression, whatever else? And his reply was to immediately rule himself out of the title contention. He said, I'm like 48 points behind. These guys are pulling away. If I had a few more races, then maybe I'll be in it. I'm trying to paraphrase, but I'm probably missing something out. But I was sitting next to Joel Smet, listening to this diatribe and thinking, this is some interesting kidology here from Jeffrey. Is he being earnest in any way, or is he trying to get the mind games going on the 2 people that were to his right? Yeah, Jorge Prado was the GP winner in the middle, and then Tim Gajser in second place. I noticed somebody on Twitter keeps saying I pronounce Gajser wrong. How do you say it?
Gajser.
Gajser. So what do I say? Gajser.
You say you put a little European twang on it. You do. I presume
Gajser.
What you do is actually the Slovenian way.
I should default to Paul Malin on this one because he probably knows the right way to do it. But even now, I can't hear Paul in my head. So,
well, I would almost be concerned if you
it.
could hear Paul in your head, to be honest.
Should I just say Tigger? Even though it's not the.
But even that, is it
nickname.
Tigger or is it Tiger?
Yeah, I mean Tigger's like a fluffy character out of Winnie the Pooh.
Yep. I mean, do you want to talk about Toy Story potentially, or?
You got to move on. There's other animated films,
Okay.
What about Cars?
Well, fun fact to the podcast. Don't ask me how I ended up down this rabbit hole, but did you know Cars is the third most profitable movie franchise of all time?
No way.
Did you know that they have sold $19 billion worth of merch?
I can believe that. I mean, my 2 children, we must have had 50 and maybe 10 different versions of Lightning McQueen. It was, I know where most of my salary went, actually. We had a whole box full of those cars.
Yeah,
but, where was the Grand Prix we had in Florida? WW, right? What year was that?
17.
So on the day before, we decided to drive to Daytona just to do, a bit of a tour, kill some time. Went to the beach, put our feet in the sea, as you do as a Brit, and then took the tour of Daytona. And the tour guide said to us, "Who is the most recognized NASCAR of all time?" And then we were like, "Oh, I don't know." I said sort of Dale Earnhardt or one of these kind of names. And then suddenly he pointed to the ceiling, and we looked up, and there was this huge kind of inflatable Lightning McQueen suspended from the ceiling. And said that, yep, after all the the history and the unforgettable names and sights of NASCAR, it's best known for a sort of a very lovable, cuddly red Disney Pixar creation.
I don't know if I'd call him cuddly. And also, what a rabbit hole! Well, what a tangent! That may be one of our best. We went from the pronunciation of Gajser to Lightning McQueen in I would say less than 60 seconds. Incredible stuff.
Apologies.
No, we like the tangents. But back to my very original point. Before Sweden, I felt very much that Herlings had his destiny in his own hands. Whereas now, after the points lost, I do feel like he will need some help So I obviously feel less confident because if you tell me that I need to rely on Jeffrey getting the job done, I'm there because I know I can count on Jeffrey. But now I have to count on the other two having some sort of issue. Can't really predict that or count on it.
I think, Lewis, you've had an indirect hand in the destiny of the 2024 MXGP World Championship.
Oh, thank you very much.
I would explain, because I think, if I'm not incorrect, you had a bit of not a veiled criticism, but you kind of said Jorge Prado, 2023 world champion, but only won 2 GPs. And then suddenly Jorge Prado this year now has 8 Grand Prix wins. And that's more than double Gajser or Herlings. He's led, I think, double the amount of laps than anybody else. It's like he heard you, Lewis, and thought, right, okay, I'm going to bounce straight out of my little Supercross episode into this winningest rider in MXGP this season. And I might take a back-to-back crown with me.
Okay, well, first of all, I can't quite remember what I said, but yes, that rings a little bit of a bell. Second of all, am I going to be best friends with Jorge Prado here shortly? Is this our destiny? I feel like all of the puzzle pieces are coming together to the point where this time next year, in my little box on YouTube, it will be me and Prado, and we'll just be like Ant and Dec, inseparable.
Well, I think you would have to divorce away from Chase Sexton potentially. But then, it'd be
It's a lot to consider. Jeffrey, how's Jeffrey going to feel about this?
Well, he wouldn't care because you're on the other side of the water. But it is a natural kind of European swing, wouldn't it?
Ouch. I think Jeffrey cares about me very much, Adam. I'd like to think that he thinks about me regularly, but to each their own, I guess.
His left hand didn't look too good post moto because of the last lap crash after the second race. I sort of popped, into the little rider area in the KTM awning, and he was kind of flexing his hand like this. He said, he knows how it feels when something's broken. He didn't feel it was broken, but it kind of looked kind of swollen. And I guess he's going to be having some treatment on it this week for his home Grand Prix, but a little bit of a concern. Okay,
don't take this too harshly, but when Herlings now says my knee, my hand, I don't even bat an eyelid. You saying that it looks bad, I'm like, oh, wow. Because when I saw that Jeffrey said, oh, I hurt my hand, I'm like, it's Jeffrey. As long as it didn't fall off, it's fine.
It didn't look that bad. I mean, he didn't feel like he needed to go and get it checked out. But, I mean, Monday morning or Tuesday, I don't know how he was feeling. But, yeah.
Did you know last week and the week before, a lot of Lewis and Jeffrey time? A lot of back and forth, a lot of conversations, real resurgence, you could say, for the Lewis and Jeffrey affair.
Okay.
Just a little another sidebar for you. Basically, I'm so jealous that you went to Sweden, which I don't think we've even clarified. That I just wanted to flaunt that in your face, just in case you get a bit cocky about your standing within the paddock. I'm trying hard to sort of look and sound how impressed I am. And also, although I didn't go to the Swedish GP, on Sunday I did go to IKEA, so perhaps the best possible foot forward that I could have made. A real gesture on my part, that while the second motos were going on, I was reading Salida and other Swedish words. Salida is exit, for those of you who are not fluent like myself.
No, Lewis, Salida is Spanish for exit.
Well, then why is it? I'm in America. They do that. Okay, so I was walking around IKEA and thought to myself, wow, they're really invested. They've even got the signs in Swedish, and no one here speaks Swedish. They're really invested in the Swedish idea.
Were you trying to speak Spanish with Freddie Nora and he was just looking at you?
I don't. To be honest, now I just feel like an idiot. But this is why this podcast works, because I have no idea where we are. I don't know where we're going.
All right. Listen, I'll reset the course for you. I feel incredibly conflicted about Uddevalla and the Grand Prix of Sweden. It's been the host of the Swedish Grand Prix since forever. First time I went there was in 2001. And there's parts of it that I adore, and I think it's such a charismatic event on the MXGP calendar. But there's other parts of it where I think, oh my God, they should never, ever, ever come back here. An example. Okay, so the crowd was big. On Saturday, it was all right. On Sunday, it seemed massive. The two kind of adjacent rock faces they have, the hillsides there, where Health and safety just goes out the window, and the crowd just clamber up these huge kind of rock formations. If someone tumbles off, they're going to take 10 other people with them. It could be catastrophic. So there was a big crowd. Isaac Gifting, one of my favorite sites I think I've seen in MXGP for since 2021 at least, does the sighting lap with a Swedish flag on and sort of Viking horns on his helmet. Takes the whole shot in the first motor. The place goes bananas. Just 10 minutes prior to this, they're setting off blue and yellow smoke cannons. That's the best way I can describe it, because they turned the whole sort of forest setting yellow and blue of the national flag. It looked amazing. There was a real rich atmosphere. There were kids everywhere. It must have been the youngest demographic of a crowd I think I've ever seen at a race. And it was, it was great. On the other hand, it was a fucking mess. The paddock was just strewn everywhere. It was in, I think I parked almost in Gothenburg, which is like, an hour's drive away. And it does not fit anything more than the MX2 and MXGP classes. And so they had MX2, MXGP, EMX 125 and EMX 250, which are both 11-round series now. And they're accompanying, of course, the Grand Prix. And it's just too much. It's ridiculous. People are pitching up everywhere. And I took my wife to this race. She hasn't been to a motocross Grand Prix since the middle of the last decade. Actually, even before that, so the end of the noughties. And we were walking through, and she was very confused. She was like, "What's going on there? Is this a Grand Prix? Is this a World Championship?" And I said, "Imagine if you're a sponsor spending €500,000 and you're trying to walk in through this. You're going to be not very well, impressed." So that was kind of not a great taste. And then the track itself is pretty beaten down. It was stonier than I ever remember it. And I think if you remove these support classes, then you're going to have more time for track maintenance, which will remove some of the kickers and some of the really sketchy bits that were causing some bizarre accidents. I mean, I don't know if you saw the onboard footage of Brian Bogers's crash before the famous Paul's Jonas tabletop. Scary stuff. And yeah,
real missed opportunity to not have the moon landing stuff this week with that, just FYI.
Update on the moon landing.
Oh,
apparently,
no.
According to Fantic, it was an initiative started by Schott, their gear people, their gear partner, who said, "Hey, let's just celebrate the moon landing." And then Fantic went, "Yeah, something different, why not?"
So did you raise this to them, or did they seek you out in response to the podcast?
No, I said, "What on earth is the deal with the moon landing and it being the 55th anniversary?"
So ridiculous.
And Nora, who's sort of responsible for sort of Fantic's racing effort, just a lovely girl, really sort of sharp on the money and everything else. She gave me the justification. I thought, well, okay, it's the gear company.
Yeah, well, I don't know who's to blame, but someone needs to be fired for this. That's kind of the crux of the issue. 2 points on Uddevalla, 3 points on Uddevalla. 1, in say 2005 when Josh Coppins went 1-1, do you remember having a similar feeling about Uddevalla, or has this progressed over time? Or for as long as you can remember, do you feel like you felt this way?
When it comes to Josh Coppins and Uddevalla, my main memory is Ben Townley winning there, I think in 2003 or 2004. And then Josh, I was standing near him, near the finish line, and he sort of turned around and said, "I can't believe he won a Grand Prix before I did, the little rat." And that was just his kind of his some token of the accomplishment by his countrymen. He said it in jest, of course, but maybe it must have been Townley's first GP win, perhaps.
Well,
but yeah. Anyway,
wait, you're talking 2003?
Yeah, no, I mean Ben must have won a GP, 2, riding for Van Garney, I would have thought.
Well, we can't check the results because they don't exist. Well, they don't exist.
From 2002?
Yeah, MXGP.com only goes back to 2004.
Oh, Ben Townley must have a Wikipedia page. Maybe it's on there.
Maybe.
I tell you what, I can go back and actually look through my race report archives and find out, but it would take minutes. And we probably should not keep people bored on this podcast. You
could also answer my initial question about your feeling in Uddevalla about whether
I can't fucking remember 2005.
Okay, so my other point, 2, did the go-karting people seem really sad that I wasn't there to boost their profits? Was there a black cloud over that area?
There was no karting on Sunday.
Oh,
do you remember that in the situation
No.
before? It was flat out on Friday and Saturday, I think, but no karting on Sunday.
okay. And thirdly, you know Gordon Ramsay's kitchen nightmares?
Yes and no. I know
Vaguely.
Gordon Ramsay.
The premise.
I
He goes
avoid
into
his television.
Okay. Well, his show is he goes into restaurants and basically goes, "This is shit. What are you doing?" That's what we should do with GPs. We should go to each race with a camera, and we should like walk around going, "Look at this. This is fucking disgraceful. Sort it out." You know, that would be really good. And then honestly, I feel like that would be really great. My pitch isn't great at the moment because I've only just, created this idea.
You're going to have to start at the Motocross of Nations because you've pitched this whole kind of presentation, live chat thing, at Matterley Basin, and you're going to get very wet while doing it.
Are you aware of this?
To see how it works.
Well, first of all, are you going to the Nations?
70-30, yes.
Okay, because you'll be in on this.
Oh, will I?
I'd like you to be.
I haven't given you any details on my fees yet.
Well, I don't think that In Front are paying us, surprisingly.
Can I have a Lewis Phillips sidebar for a moment?
Yeah,
and
sure.
For people who travel to London and go to Heathrow Airport Terminal 5, Gordon Ramsay's official restaurant there serves the most disgusting breakfast ever. Don't have it because you'll pay a fortune. It's like 11 or 12 quid for some scrambled eggs, and it was like dog puke. So avoid.
Okay, poor Gordon. Honestly, a video of us just going to GPs and walking around and then almost being run over by an 85 kid, and then we can just be like, fucking disgraceful.
Oh, don't.
Sort it out. And then we can be in David's office, pounding our fist on the table going, what are you doing? You've lost your passion. And then, it can be a whole emotional arc.
I'm not sure, Lewis. It sounds a bit too much negative energy. I think that this series will probably last about 3 or 4 rounds.
Well, dear listener, you may be surprised to know we're really on a time crunch today. Not that you'd get the vibe from. I don't even know if the podcast has started yet, to be honest. I
just gave you a huge evaluation of Sweden. What more would you want to know?
Well, okay. I mean, it's honestly,
Lewis.
What?
Can I tell you, you'll be heartened to know that the jugs of Ribena, I don't know, maybe you have to explain what Ribena is. The jugs of Ribena and the half-made sandwiches were still out in force in the Uddevalla Media Centre.
And still the jet every year, but everyone...
it was amazing.
But everyone acts like it's the first time they've seen it, and I don't understand why, because it's expected at this point.
I think it's a Saab. It was like a Saab fighter jet, and it was so low on Saturday afternoon. It was like it was burning the sky. It was pretty impressive. Okay,
well, I just feel like everyone reacts on social media like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Whereas in my second year at Uddevalla, I'd already cottoned on that this was a tradition.
Yes.
But never mind. I tweeted earlier the MXGP Championship standings without the qualification points. And they are Prado, 619, Gajser, 617, Herlings, 602.
Ooh, that's a better championship, isn't it?
That's a much better championship. Really quite juicy. When I present that to you, what jumps off the page? Is there an overarching thought that...
that it's very silly. Just a pointless exercise. Because they count in the points for the qualifying races, so there's no point.
Oh, you mean you mean my idea was point? I thought you meant that the qualifying points were pointless, and I was like, wow, this is great content. No,
well, that's another contentious subject. But just trying to make a championship of something that is part of the championship, it doesn't seem really worthwhile. I can understand why you do that, but it's not worth talking about, is it?
Okay.
Sorry, I don't mean to shoot you down.
I just need to quickly go through my notes because I had that conversation pegged for 30 minutes or so.
Next on the agenda.
Shit. So Gordon Ramsay. No, I think that if you look at that, I think it tells you that Gajser has been incredibly effective in qualifying. And actually, it almost made me wonder and I'm going to try and frame this as delicately as possible because I now know that Slovenia as a nation listen to this and make notes. They're probably struggling to follow this so far. Salida, Swedish or Spanish? Question mark is what their notes say. I think, actually, at its core, Tim Gajser hasn't been as good as Herlings and Prado this year, but what he has been is incredibly consistent, still hasn't finished worse than fourth in a GP. So in some ways, he's been better than them. But actually, as far as speed and on-track performance goes, maybe a notch off, despite what the championship standings say. And obviously, he has been the most effective in qualifying, and that is part of the championship. But it's just when you remove that element, it almost rejigs the picture a little bit and makes you see more clearly.
He is having Jorge Prado's 2023 season in 2024. That's the long and short of it. But, he's got more podiums than the other two. I think just one more, so 12, which is not a bad return from 15 Grand Prix. I did a nice interview with him actually on Saturday evening, which also made me appreciate motocross more compared to MotoGP, because I thought Gajser's just done a qualifying heat on a rough and treacherous track. He's done a paddock show to about 50 people. He signed autographs. He quickly had a shower and then sat down with me for 30 minutes and did like a career perspective, because he's been racing for Honda for 10 years now. This is his 11th season in HRC colours. And I thought, these prima donnas in MotoGP, why can't they do the same? I mean, we were doing the interview at 7 p.m. So it's, I appreciate that. And I thought, as always, Tim's like really honest and forthright. He talks about the relationship, with his dad and how that's developed, and how HRC has effectively been like a second family to him, because his whole family unit were there present, overseeing most of the first phase of his career. And I don't know. It's not like I had a newfound respect for him, because there's always been a large respect. But I did kind of look at him and hear how he was trying to come back from that broken femur last year, and I think he's just playing it really smart. He's just doing what Prado did last year. And I think Jorge's riding this season like, guys, I'm checking out. I'm off to the US. I'm gonna have a blast. And we also had a bit of a talk with him in the Red Bull Energy Station. He was saying that, he just loves to ride. Racing, yeah, okay. But just loves to ride the bike. And he's looking better than ever on a 450. And that's just showing in the speed. And it's very telling that he got out front, won both motos, and led in a situation that he was kind of similar in Lommel. But then, of course, Jeffrey Herlings' fan acumen just was superior on that day. But Jeffrey couldn't do anything about him in Sweden.
I think for what I'd like to do, and it's hard to do this because you never know if you're getting the full truth, but I'd like to go up to Tim and say to him, do you think you've been slightly less fast or slower, as it's often referred to, than Prado and Jeffrey this year? Because I almost wonder if his immediate reply would be, yeah, that's the idea. I almost feel like this is an entire plan, as you say. And he's like, yeah, I don't need to do that. I'm playing the long game. I'm interested to know the inner workings of the strategy and I know that HRC have a plan of average points per GP. I think it was 50 per GP with 60 on the table. So I'd be interested to know how much he holds back in order to think about the bigger picture and where he's going, rather than just blindly chasing glory. Which, in fairness, I don't believe that either Prado or Herlings are doing that, but it just seems to be more apparent with Timothy. Which he's never been referred to as that before ever, but hey.
We know how everyone always passes off the comment, like the red plate's not important and it's only important having it on the last day, blah, 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 blah. I think Tim can rightly sort of sit there and say, look, I've got the red plate, I'm setting the pace. And that qualification heat win and the 10 points on Saturday was a bit of a boost, after sort of the mauling he had in the sand in Belgium. I think he needed to bounce back with that one. And the next Grand Prix in Arnhem is going to be another tough sandy test. But then, you move to Switzerland, and that's also going to be pretty good terrain for him. I remember him back in 16 being, impossibly fast then that day in Frauenfeld. So, some good tracks for Gajser coming up after Arnhem. But, he just has to keep his head about him and sort of try to stay within the same realm as Prado and Herlings. But it's interesting that, the three of them again, Lewis. I mean, they've been on the podium, but all three of them been on the podium 5 times this year. But they're a country mile ahead. And what our friend and colleague Lorenzo Resta said, asked all three of them a question and said, look, you guys it seems to be faster than anybody else. So why is that? And Jorge just kind of looked at him and said, well, we're faster. He couldn't find a way to explain it. But, I was kind of hoping Roman Febvre could maybe get in the mix a little bit, but he was kind of crashy in Sweden. Jeremy Seewer had a fantastic start, but, it still looks like he's trying to steer an elephant to a degree. We need more riders really to sort of upset or get in amongst those three to make a difference in the point standings.
Yeah, it seems like it's only in the sand that they can do that. Febvre, Vlaanderen, Cairoli. I never thought that I'd say those words again.
Very quickly, what do you think about this? Because there was some talk about it going on in Sweden about what he can do, and I think if he has 2 to 3 quick laps, then he has to feel happy. But I'll be surprised if Tony finishes top 10.
In reaction to the last time we spoke about this, I had multiple people reach out to me from Dutch practice tracks and say that his speed is good enough for the podium. And we are massively
35 minutes.
Well, and then they immediately followed that up with, I don't know if he's got the fitness, but they said on pace alone, he can run with Gajser in the sand. Not Jeffrey and Prado are obviously their own level.
But the other thing to remember is that Ducati is being developed as a production bike as much as a race bike. And I question, and we were talking about this as well in Uddevalla, how good the bike's going to be off the start. I mean, Tony's always been a strong starter, so that's something in his arsenal. But the Ducati is going to be powerful, but whether it really just has that kind of setup in terms of electronics, mapping, everything else to make the difference again. The HRC bikes, factory KTM's, they were trying something different on Herlings' engine as well, like last weekend. That's going to be potentially a divider.
I'm the opposite. I almost expect Cairoli to whole shot because he is such a good starter, and the way the Desmo engine has been explained to me, I expect it to be great out of the gate. I would almost bet money on Cairoli leading 2 laps over the weekend in one of the motos. Whether he holds on, I don't know. I think he'll be in the top 10.
That's job done then. If he can get out front and just put the Desmo 450 MX on TV or, in some consciousness, some way. I mean, we know in MXGP, the TV production's got really good, in terms of using the drone and, giving an overview. I'm giving credit where it's due, in my opinion. But then finding riders further down the order. I mean, did we know that Alberto Ferrazzo was racing in Sweden, for example? Finding riders in the lower reaches of the top 10, if Tony's down there, then, it would take a concerted effort by the team to show what the Ducati's doing.
As far as I know, Mattia isn't signed there. My source on this is quite good, so I don't know what happens with him.
Well, some journalists wrote that he's already signed, but...
well, that journalist caused a lot of friction with their story, so I don't know if we should trust him. And also...
be careful with the sources.
So actually, while we're correcting stuff on this podcast, a few weeks ago I said Harrop was going to America with Triumph. That was the plan, because 450 isn't going to be ready. They were going to bring him to America for a year, then send him back to GPs to race the 450. Now, that's off, for whatever reason, which led me to believe he was going to take the second Kawasaki seat, as heavily rumoured. But then this week, I found out another rider has been offered the Kawasaki seat. So I don't really know.
Mr. Hogmo.
No. But did you hear that?
Oh. Yes.
Oh.
Kawasaki proving to be popular.
Yeah, well, we all want on that second bike, don't we? It's got such a great track record. I'm sure that these riders are ringing Ben Watson, Mitch Evans, Jeremy Seewer, and the references are out of this world positive.
By all accounts as well, Ruben Fernandez has agreed a contract as the second HRC rider.
He'll be back for the Nations, won't he?
He was supposed to have been back in Sweden.
Oh.
But I don't know why. Maybe it was just the contract thing, But he's fit and ready to go, apparently.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering with regard to Spain's Motocross of Nations team. And while we're talking about Motocross of Nations, don't expect Max Anstey on Team GB. So,
oh, really?
And potentially expect Team GB in the LCQ?
Team GB, off the top of my head, has to be Conrad Muse, Josh Gilbert, and why is another name failing me? I had it in my head before we were going.
Bruce, Sterry.
No, I mean Bruce. I don't know what Bobby Bruce has done, but he was being taken away, nursing his left shoulder and arm very gingerly on Saturday. It looked like he was properly spannered. So I'm hoping it's not too bad and he gets better quick.
Okay, but yeah, honestly.
Oh yeah, I would have said Max. You know, I would have said Max, Gilbert, and Muse.
The money that would be needed for Star to send him over with his material is ever so slightly out of the Team GB budget.
But can't they just run stuff they already have in Europe?
No, because they want to do it properly, and for whatever reason, that's as it stands now, that is not a possibility. Which is weird because I feel like in the past there has been that sharing of, you know, equipment and material, but as of now, that isn't a possibility.
Well, I guess Jager Gertz could still be riding for Belgium. Maxime Renault should be back, and I can't see him racing for France, but there's a slim possibility. You know, there is material there, you would have thought. I mean, Calvin Verlanderen, you'd say he's a shoe-in for the Netherlands with Koldenhoff and Herlings.
Well, Max would be on a 250.
Yes, because Conrad will be 450, and then Josh Gilbert as well. Yeah, I mean, if anything, the 250 program for Yamaha has been kind of underwhelming in 2024. I was kind of watching the MX2 races, and I still struggle to get the excitement going for this class. I mean, again, you see the numbers sort of dwindling compared to the MX 250. Brilliant performance by Lucas Koenen. A really strong recovery after his disaster at his home Grand Prix. You know, and obviously not a fantastic day for Kyle de Wolf. His footage of pushing the back marker over the jump was pretty spectacular. I don't know if you saw it. But, you know, when it comes to the 250s, there's a rumor going around a couple of weeks ago about Liam Everts wanting to leave Red Bull KTM and be a factory Kawasaki rider because, you know, you have two more factory saddles there in green, as well as another factory Honda next year, if they keep Sanchi. And I was thinking, why on earth would, you know, Liam Everts want to leave a factory Austrian bike? Because there's just a whole fleet of them at the front of MX2, and the Japanese bikes are sort of not really in the running. You don't want to be on a Kawasaki. You might think, okay, HRC Honda could be better in 2025, and the Yamahas at the moment just you know, nowhere near what they used to be a couple of years ago. So yeah,
I would bet all of my money that when Liam Everts' contract is up with KTM at the end of next year, he's out of there. I think, as you said, he wants to be out of there for whatever reason. I
don't know. I think that's speculative. I don't know.
The rumours, he's going to Yamaha last year, he's going to Kawasaki now. I feel like there's such fanfare around him wanting to move on.
I think that's just because of the swirl of reorganization at Pira Mobility Group, and who's going to be riding, you know, among the two factory KTM outfits, where it's going to be one really next year, what used to be the Cairoli, and then who's going to be staying in Husqvarna. My one question to Lucas Koenen in the MX2 press conference was, there's a lot of rumors about you riding a 450 next year. Are you interested in doing so, and do you think you're ready? And he kind of went, he sort of, and to be fair, he just batted it straight off by saying, I've got two options for next year and I hope to announce it soon. So make that what you want.
Yeah, actually, we haven't even discussed that. I feel like I can say with confidence Lucas Koenen will be on a 450 next year, which is mad.
Yeah.
And I have no other information about why or who or where or how or when. Well, I do know when next year, but I don't know why. I don't even know where this idea would have come from.
What if Kai de Wolf moves up to a 450 as well?
Then finally,
you know,
it will be Simon Lagenfelder's time to shine. And finally, I will be correct.
I spoke to Davide De Carli, the team manager, who's working obviously quite closely with Simon, you know, in the Red Bull Gas team, and he just said after the broken collarbone, after a strong start to the season, it just took him time to sort of really find his confidence and to get the bike sorted how he wanted. He's getting the starts. I mean, wow, the prowess off the line is amazing. So he's not far away, Lewis. I really did. I think, this for 2025, you need to renew your faith.
I said that he would win over half of the GPs this year. We're 15 rounds in and he hasn't won one. Literally, I couldn't be more wrong. And it's shocking.
Quite a pun.
He's such a good rider. Like, how has he not won a single Grand Prix? I can't make sense of it. I almost feel like I haven't really got that relationship with him, but I feel like I need to step in and have a frank conversation and maybe remind him what he's capable of.
Well, when I was studying the story about going to see Herlings after the race and saw his left hand, the Coonan brothers were there. Sasha had a big crash on Saturday, and he had a lot of pain on. He had a lot of pain at the top of both legs, so he was having some attention on what's that muscle, the quadricep, I guess. So he was having some attention there, and then Lucas walked in as well. And I sort of said to him just as I was leaving, keep banking the 250 bonuses next year, mate. Don't rush onto the 450. And he kind of laughed, but no more information on that one, Lewis.
It makes no sense. Did you see Lagenfelder's crash on Saturday, I think? Or maybe Sunday warm-up?
No.
Oh, my.
I didn't.
So you know he's Woody, and Woody was put on the top shelf. Well, the best way to sum this up is Woody fell off the top shelf. And you can imagine how horrific that would be.
What is it that Buzz Lightyear shouts as he goes to pick him up or save him?
To infinity and beyond?
There we go.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a Madness song lyric in my head. One step beyond.
Come on, Adam. Adam, if you're going to do this podcast, get your facts straight, yeah? Come prepared or don't come culture. At all. I have no idea. Are we on MX2? Did we finish MXGP? I have no idea. You know what, everyone? How about Polosport? Hey, Yamaha YZ125 or 250 riders, this one's for you. If you've been riding models from 2002 to 2021, listen up, because Polosport has something that's going to make your heart race. They're introducing the new restyling kit, a complete transformation for your Yamaha, giving your bike a 2024 look without any complicated modifications. This kit includes everything that you need: a new gas tank, a full race seat, and an airbox, all designed to fit seamlessly. No fuss, no hassle, just a fresh design that breathes new life into your dirt bike. Your old YZ 2-stroke will look like it just rolled off the showroom floor. So to all the YZ125 or 250 owners out there, it's time to transform your bike. Your Yamaha deserves it, and Polosport has what you need. Polosport.
You rushed it a bit at the end.
Polosport has what you need is the overarching theme of the read, as you'd expect.
Are we off bendy levers now?
Yeah, we've been off those since Majora.
Oh, goodness. Right. I do pay attention to you sometimes.
Okay, well, that's worrying. But we do have a new EVS read that we will get to shortly. Circling back to MXGP to ask the question, do we need to circle back to MXGP, or are we done with it? I would have really liked for Isaac Gifting to get the fill-in ride this year, and this has kind of proven where that feeling was coming from.
I thought what he did was amazing. I mean, to run top 5 for that long was also pretty good. But then a part of me also thought, why has this not happened at more races? And could it potentially happen in other races? I get the whole home GP vibe and the urgency and the excitement and the extra adrenaline it provides. But, I'd like to see more of this type of gifting.
Do you feel like... I feel like when I was younger, like a kid, I feel like it was more common for riders to step up and overperform at their home GPs. Similar to Isaac Gifting, Cole Nunn at Matchams comes to mind. I feel like that's gone away, and now the results are just the same everywhere. There's rarely a home hero who leads a lap or pulls off this miracle ride and hangs on for dear life, I don't know why that would have gone away, but I feel like back in the day, you could almost count on at every GP a home hero would step up.
I think it's also something to do with the quantity of races, perhaps. When it was like a 14 or 15 race championship, maybe that was something to do with it. Also because the riders that have been so good, I mean, guys, you're obviously not, because we haven't had a Grand Prix of Slovenia. But when the riders are so good and Herlings is, winning or doing brilliantly in 2 or 3 Sandy events, or Jorge Prado is now starring in 2 Spanish Grand Prix every year, it kind of just dilutes the home GP effect, even though you cannot get more emphatic with a home GP performance than Prado this year at a circuit named after him, 4 kilometers away from his house, and probably popping up for a one-time only deal.
I don't feel like Prado's going to disconnect from MXGP completely. I was randomly thinking this earlier. I think if anyone, Prado is the type of guy to always try and come back to race his home GP a la Roxon in 2012. I really feel like, and where this came from is I was looking at Prado's career numbers, and Sweden was his 50th 450 podium, and he now has 90 overall because he's got 40 in MX2. And I was thinking to myself, damn, he's just going to come up one short of 100 or a couple short of 100. Then I thought, I feel like he'll float around for the odd GP from time to time.
Yeah, good statistic that. See, that's a good statistic when you look up stuff like that. Good numbers.
Well, the qualifying. Yeah, you didn't like the qualifying points.
Yeah, too hypothetical.
Honestly, I sent the qualifying point. Well, no. So I tweeted that. Someone in the paddock screenshotted that tweet and said, "Have you done the MXGP podcast yet? There is so much for you to talk about with this." So they're disappointed. They're crushed.
It feels like a storyline we did last year already. And qualifying heats and points are not going to go anywhere, are they?
Is there a premise here for In Front to look at that tweet, because they do all follow me on Twitter, learnt that the hard way, and be like, shit, we could really have an amazing title fight here, or a more amazing title fight. We kind of screwed that up with these points. Do you think that enters any sort of realm of doubt?
No, because if it was like a clear-cut thing, I mean, even last year with Prado being quite far ahead, I mean, Febra's sort of reeling off these successive victories in motos and trying to make a fist of it, even though he wasn't in contention for the title, but he was still winning races. I think this year it's still only 48 points. Remember, there's 60 points maximum for a race. All you need is like for Gajser to have a training crash and not being able to turn up, because bizarrely the calendar, the way it's working out, there's now another triple header. I mean, it's Arnhem and then straight to Switzerland, and then you got Turkey and China and then Spain, and that's it. So it's going to be bedlam.
And also, we do have sand this weekend. There's a very high chance that leaving Arnhem, Prado will be within 10 points of Gajser, because he's 17 now. So for Prado to take 7 points off Gajser this weekend, I would say that's almost the minimum that he'll do. So the two-way fight is on. That's amazing and incredible. It's just the Jeffrey factor that is now swimming in obscurity a little bit.
Yeah, he's still not out of this, is he? He's still not.
This weekend is massive. If he can't, well, he's going to capitalize this weekend. It just depends how much. Essentially, out of his hands, it depends if Gajser is a solid third-place guy or if Gajser is fifth. That is massively going to shape the picture for Jeffrey.
And coming back to your home GP point, I mean, that's really valid as well, because Jorge Prado could go to his third home GP of the season, needing a certain amount of points to make sure of the championship. And how's he going to respond to that? Is he going to wilt under all the pressure and the scrutiny, or is he going to be able to harness all the goodwill and undoubtedly big crowd, if that is the scenario, and be able to make the most of home GP favoritism, I guess?
I feel like Prado's better. If it goes down to the wire with those two, I think Prado is better suited to handle the pressure. Because you want to know what's weird, and I looked this up, and we're now well in the weeds, but screw it, this podcast has barely been a podcast. Less paddock pass and more beer tent pass, this one. So naturally, every single time Gajser has left Lockett leading the championship, he's won the championship. But every single time Gajser has left Lockett leading the championship, he's been at minimum 109 points clear. So Gajser has never dealt with this. All of his championships have come from a very sturdy, controlled place. Prado with Jonas in 2018, bit dicey. And I mean, Gajser's obviously been in it because 2021 he was a part of that. But just, still a different perspective because he's leading the championship with someone nipping at his heels, and he's never been there. Because 2021 he was for Chaser.
Yeah, you're just full of the facts as well on this podcast. It's you're chiming in with some good quality material.
Oh, thank you.
It's a worthy point. But then in 2021, I think a lot of people would have had money on him because Herlings had made a hash of things in Arco, which was the previous round or
honestly, don't
round before that.
You can't mention the Arco week to me because the emotions, that was the best week of my life. Those races, honestly, if anyone's ever bored, go back and watch the triple header at Arco in November of 2021. Those GPs were insane. You would not believe that a motocross race could be that good. And honestly, if I do say so myself, the entire sport has been fucked ever since. We just can't live up to it. Like, it's like releasing a great movie, and then you're like, we need to do a sequel. And we just can't. We're trying, and we can't. We're really struggling to back that one up.
Oh, Top Gun Maverick was improvement, wasn't it?
Well, I haven't seen that.
You haven't seen it?
I haven't.
One of the few. It's ultimate cheese, but it was a passable effort.
I can talk to you about Gordon Ramsay's kitchen nightmares. Does that interest you? Season 2 of that just wasn't the same. Didn't have the same heart.
My point was that Herlings had a big crash in Arco, and then they went to the final round in Mantova, and I think people would have had money on Tim making sure of this championship because it's not like he doesn't have any championships. And, he got pushed off the track. He got penalised, and then he was a deficit in the standings. That was came down to the crunch, and that was it. It wasn't a case of how many points is he ahead or how kind of relentless he's been in racking up those points. It was just one kind of incident. And that's what's going to make this season so fantastic because that incident is going to happen to one of them, in the next sort of 5 Grand Prix.
Who got penalised?
It was Gajser. He got pushed off the track and didn't he get relegated to 11th or something?
In 2021?
And then,
at Mantova. At Mantova, yes. I was trying to picture Arco.
Then you remember it was very contentious because then Lupino did the same thing at the Nations or had done the same thing, hadn't been penalised, and Italy won.
Yep, no, I do. I was just trying to place it at Arco, and as soon as I figured out Mantova, I was okay. It's just great stuff going on, and a lot of balls on show, which makes me think about All Balls Racing. The All Balls Racing Group is a combination of the finest aftermarket power sports brands from across the US and Europe. Combining OEM-level engineering and design capabilities with a world-class supply chain makes them the largest global supplier of critical aftermarket hard parts for the power sports industry. You can trust the All Balls Racing Group to provide the exact fitment and best quality in the industry at a price that fits your budget. They have everything to keep you running. Thank you to All Balls Racing and Polisport and, of course, EVS Sports.
What's new for EVS?
What, you want to hear it now?
Yeah, I mean, wow. Have they got something new? What's new about it?
Well... Okay, hold on, because...
Come on, Lewis, I couldn't set you up any better for that.
Well, no, because they gave me 2 new reads, and one of them was basically the old read, just like rejigged, and I picked that one. So now I'm going back and finding the other read, because this one is about their new product. Experience the pinnacle of knee protection and injury prevention with the new EVS Web Eclipse knee brace. For over 39 years, EVS has relentlessly honed their engineering expertise, consistently delivering award-winning knee protection. This legacy of excellence is embedded in every facet of the new Web Eclipse, which represents the culmination of their tireless dedication to innovation and rider safety. EVS Sports.
There's something quite Shakespearean about the way you delivered that. In fact, it sounds like you wrote it.
Honestly, I feel like I've got too many personalities.
You're like that movie with James McAvoy.
Well, some people say that I write like I'm a 70-year-old man. And then I'm on here talking about Toy Story. It's like,
how do you write like a 70-year-old man?
I don't know.
Just write.
I write like
a silly comment.
I write like a challenged child. MX2 quickly before we wrap this up. Any points that stand out? Exciting news. Remember last podcast when I referred to Camden McClellan as thriving roadkill? Think there may be a butt patch coming out of that?
Really? Well,
Yep.
He took that as a compliment?
I wouldn't say a compliment. He took that as a source of joy. Laughed at me, not with me. Let's say that.
I have some news for you as well. This weekend, I'm going to Red Bull Ring for the Austrian MotoGP. It's going to be my 4th weekend in a row. And MotoGP, as we've established on the podcast before, is a little bit more laborious in terms of the time you need to be away. But while I was in Silverstone, after Le Mans, before Sweden, I saw Steve Sargent, and I'm not going to try to attempt what job position he has at Triumph. I think he might be CPO, Chief Product Officer.
I thought he was CTO.
Anyway. What's the T stand for?
Technical?
Okay, well, it's kind of the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess.
The CEO is the boss. The CCO is the commercial boss. So I guess the CPO or the CTO is going to be...
COO? The coup?
The Chief Operating Officer.
Yeah.
It doesn't make much sense.
Oh.
Well, we start talking about
He has
Star
a
Wars
job
robots as a
at
CPO,
Triumph.
yeah.
He has a job at
Yeah.
Triumph.
He's the string puller when it comes to the bikes at Triumph. So I sort of said to him, listen, on the record, can I just sort of ask you what's happening with the 450? And he kind of just said what we already know, that the team and the brand want to concentrate on making the 250 more competitive into a Grand Prix winning bike before they can look at, introducing the 450. Didn't really give me details on time frame either. But watching the 250s in the hands of McClellan as well, and Harrop, in Uddevalla, I just thought the bikes looked good. I mean, they start well. They seem to be competitive, and it really just comes down to the rider then. So if McClellan gets another shot, in that particular team, I think it's going to be pretty good for 2025 or. Whoever they decide to hire. Valerio Lata, who's, kind of kicking ass in the MX 250, he seems to be one of the riders that, people are chasing. Kaz Volk as well is having a strong season. I guess he's going to be slotted into the KTM structure at some point. And, also, I'm trying to think of somebody else. Name is escaping me. Yeah, well,
cool.
I'm getting confused now.
Well, first of all,
senior moment.
My reaction to that is I believe the Triumph 250 is already there. How much more performance can you get out of that thing? I don't really feel like that rings true at all. Like it's there. Good, move on. And 250 silly season. So the lone Kawasaki seat is going to go to Mathis Valin, EMX 250 points leader, French. He's on a Bud Racing Kawasaki, so he's in the program. I believe Zanchi is back for one of the Honda seats. And then I heard that Honda are chasing Lotta. Yeah,
I mean, he's by far, he podiumed in his wildcard in Majora. So, the potential is there, isn't it?
If Austria let Lotta go, that's a fumble, correct? Because that's their guy for the future.
Yeah.
So if they lose him, I would be shocked because I would presume there's absolutely no way that can happen. But Ducati's full, Nissan is full, I believe. Red Bull KTM's full. So realistically, all they can offer him is another Bedini year or an SS24 year or something in that level. So if Lata is being offered a full factory option, not just equipment-wise, but the bells and whistles that come with being on such an elite team, maybe that is attractive and KTM can't respond because what are they going to do? Put a fourth rider on Ducati?
Yeah, it's a similar position for Atto, He was kind of I don't want to say the third wheel. He was one of the wheels at KTM. They couldn't quite fit him in for a 450 slot. So jump ship to Honda.
Yeah, I don't know what Ferrato's doing next year. A lot going on with City Season, I have to say. It's really... Not much is landing.
It's getting late. And it's late again.
Well, the most important news to wrap this podcast up is Ben Watson posted an Instagram post today saying he's ahead of schedule with his recovery and he's back in the gym. And dare I say, I've never seen someone so capable in the gym.
Well, that's great news for Ben. Could he make it back from the Nations?
No.
Oh.
Honestly, there is a chance, and I'm going to get so much hate for this. If Max doesn't go, Ben isn't there definitely. You never know what Conrad is going to turn up. There is a chance Team GB is in the LCQ. Because, and here's the fact behind this. Erne last year, if you remove Ben Watson from qualifying, Team GB would have qualified 29th.
Oof. Another good statistic.
So it's not...
Yeah,
I know how this works, because let me end on a rant. No matter the Team GB manager, always come at me. We need positivity. Oh, don't talk about who can be selected. That makes my job harder. Most laughable one I had was I wrote a very bland article one year about the options for Team GB, and basically said, he's a good pick, he's a good pick, he's a good pick, he's a good pick. They're all good picks, great times. Naturally, the social media reaction was lots of people giving their own picks. Got a call from the team manager at the time. I'd really prefer it if you wouldn't do that. It puts a lot of pressure on me. And I just was like, what? Like, honestly, it's like the Team GB manager has to be the most delicate little flower, time after time after time. There's a Team GB group chat every year. I saw a screenshot of the 2022 Team GB group chat where the team manager was slagging me off. Little did he know that I was friends with all the riders, so they just sent me screenshots.
Maybe you should put your services forward as some sort of media advocate for
I want to be the team manager.
Stuff.
I go to the races. I talk to these riders time and time again. These team managers for Team GB aren't even going to the GPs. I'm up to date on what I know where Ben's at with his recovery. I know where Max is at with the funding for Star. I can do it.
I think you should do it only because you would sit there in the press conference and we would have the chance to ask you questions. Please just do it for that alone.
I would turn up and my team would just be Ben Watson. And I would be like, we only need one man to carry us to the A final. All of these other nations have to rely on multiple riders. We have Ben Watson, and that's all we need to get this job done. End of press conference.
Is it too late to clone him?
Well, we need to clone his good knee at this point. Right. Thank you to EVS Sports, All Balls Racing, and Polisport. This is, without doubt, been the most chaotic MXGP podcast show ever. And if you ask me...
Wait. What about Arnhem? Who's going to win?
Jeffrey.
Yeah? You think Lommel Jeffrey is going to turn up?
Not Lommel Jeffrey, because it's not... Lommel is sand. Arnhem is sand. So, it's the advantage of Herlings and Prado isn't going to be that great, which also makes me think that Gajser will be better than he was at Lommel. Because I think in Arnhem sand, he can quite easily be the third best rider.
Yeah, I've never been to Arnhem. I mean, they've only had one previous Grand Prix. It's quite a new track, so I cannot comment.
Well, it's Valkenswaard sand. It's
what happened to all the classic Dutch tracks? I mean, where's Valkenswaard? Where's Leerop? I want to see these tracks back on the GPs. We'll try and guess from 1 to 10 the level of enthusiasm for the Grand Prix in Arnhem in the media centre on Sunday night.
Was it 0?
No, it wasn't that bad. But I'll give it like a middling 4.
Well, I don't know if that's because of the GP. I think it's just because it's round 16.
Yes, in the middle of a triple,
I'm guessing there were a lot of remarks thrown your way at look who decided to turn up 2 GPs in a row.
Yeah, that got kind of old about 3 years ago.
Oh.
But there you go.
Well, you've done...
Well, like I said, not that I need a medal or anything, but I'll be doing my 4th in a row this weekend, so everybody feeling the need to comment can shop it.
Well, I don't know if that counts because it's a different series. I don't think you can claim your 4th in a row. Technically.
Oh, all right, okay. But we'll stop it there.
But we'll all be very excited to tune into the Paddock Pass podcast to hear all of the news from Austria. And that's where you can find my co-host Adam Wheeler over the weekend. Thank you once again to Polisport, All Balls Racing, and EVS Sports. As I said, the most chaotic podcast in history. I have no idea if there is anything of any value in here, and if you're
yes,
listening,
go for breakfast at somewhere else in London Heathrow Terminal 5.
If you're listening, I just hope that you didn't dedicate time to this and managed to remain productive doing something else with your time. And if you did give up an entire hour for this, then all I can do is apologise and say we'll try to be better next week, but we probably won't. I've been Lewis Phillips, your host, and we will see you to discuss the Grand Prix of the Netherlands in 7 days' time. We'll see you then.